from the Tennessee Valley Weather Channel. This is a winter weather alert.
All right, it's just about to hit 6 o'clock here on the Saturday morning. I'm Fred Gossage in the Tennessee Valley Weather Center with a live winter storm update on this Saturday morning. We're going to begin our winter storm coverage for this Saturday. We're going to do live updates at the top of every hour. We're not going to do live nonstop today because this is a longer form type situation, and we're not dealing with severe thunderstorms and tornadoes. This is more of a get off the roads, don't drive type situation. So it's not going to be live nonstop all day, but we'll have live updates through the day at the top of every hour from now up through 5 o'clock this afternoon. Once we get past 5 o'clock this afternoon, we'll scale back on the live updates because all of you will have already been at home for hours by then. And then also we start to transition to above freezing temperatures and a transition to rain as we head into the overnight hours. We'll go to graphics here and talk about everything that's going on. Here's our winter storm warning and our ice storm warning across the area. The warnings have not changed, and they're not going to through the rest of the event. They're going to stay right where they are now because we're at go time here. There's an ice storm warning where it has been. The county's in purple from now until 6 p.m. tomorrow in our viewing area. That's Lewis, Lawrence, Wayne, and Hardin counties in Tennessee, Tishomingo County in Mississippi, and then Lauderdale, Colbert, Franklin counties in Northwest Alabama. And I'll tell you, out of Lauderdale, Colbert, and Franklin, it's the western portions of the county that have the highest ice accumulation risk. There's light icing everywhere, but that's where the higher totals will be in those counties. The pink counties here, winter storm warning in our viewing area, that's Murray, Marshall, and Giles counties in Tennessee, where there will still be significant icing, but maybe not quite as significant as the purple areas. And then the bluish purple areas here, Lincoln County, Tennessee, Limestone, Madison, Morgan, and Lawrence counties in Alabama. That's a winter weather advisory where we do have light ice accumulation this morning through the midday, switching over to rain by the afternoon and the evening. Most all of us switching over to rain as we head into tonight. Here's a live look at Viper Live Doppler radar showing the Doppler network across the area. We'll have our live dual pole radar on and the NEXRADs, and you do see the light winter weather moving across the area. Now, the algorithm that determines snow versus mix isn't perfect. A lot of this has been sleet and freezing rain this morning. And freezing rain is not a cold rain. That's when it falls as rain out of the cloud. And then because the temperature's in the 20s, it freezes on contact. That's how you get ice. And that's what that is. But a lot of that is what we're having this morning, sleet and freezing rain. But there has been a little light snowflake activity mixed in. It just hasn't amounted to much. And then as the warmer area is now moving in aloft, we're transitioning away from the snowflakes over to primarily sleet and freezing rain this morning. But you see some of that heavier activity moving into northwest Alabama now, in the Tishomingo County, Mississippi, in the southern parts of Wayne and Lawrence counties in Tennessee, southern Hardin County, and then some more light to moderate activity moving through the Huntsville metro area down into Morgan County, and then off east of our viewing area here. Now, not all of what you see on radar is reaching the ground because we're still dry in the lower levels of the atmosphere. So some of this is evaporating as it gets into that low level atmosphere, but some of it has been reaching the ground, and it's already been causing slick conditions on bridges, overpasses, sidewalks, parking lots, and starting to do that on roadways. But you can see light to moderate activity here in parts of southern middle Tennessee. The heaviest radar echoes right now right along the Tennessee-Alabama state line here from Minor Hill back over to Loretto and St. Joe, back over to Cypress End, Tennessee, extending up toward Collinwood and Lawrenceburg. A few more moderate echoes in the Lewis County here. This will pick up as we head on through the morning. This is only the beginning of the situation. We're going to have precipitation mostly on versus off, but off and on, with most of it being on all the way through tomorrow afternoon. So this is just the beginning of it, and you know how these work. We don't see the entirety of the entire storm's ice magically teleport out of the sky to the ground the first 5 minutes. It builds up over time, and that process is just starting. Northwest Alabama, some of the activity starting to move into picking up in the Shoals metro area now, continuing back through the Cloverdale Road area, back toward Waterloo and down the Cherokee. These areas are already starting to get icy. It's not going to take long to build up icing on roadways on bridges and overpasses and on your sidewalk and things like that. So be aware of that as we head over toward the Huntsville metro area. Again, there's been some light icing in through parts of the Huntsville metro, sleet and freezing rain. We've had reports of cars off the road at the Buc-ee's exit in Athens because of slick conditions there. So things are deteriorating already this morning, even though we're only seeing scattered and light activity. But as you look at the radar, we have a long way to go. We have wintry weather on radar all the way back into central Texas. Now, as we head into tonight, a nose of warmer air develops and moves northward across Alabama and eventually up into middle Tennessee, that will transition our particular part of this over to rain for the overnight. But it's still the entire day just about before we get to that, especially over southern middle Tennessee. Will be wintry weather until tonight. That transition over to rain will probably start in North Alabama as we head into the afternoon. We'll detail the forecast here as we go forward. If you're wondering what it's going to do, we're going to get through the forecast. We're showing you current conditions so you get a sense of what it's like now, and then we'll get into the forecast as we go forward. Here's the Arctic Air Skycam Network, 20 degrees in Lawrenceburg. Here's why some of this is evaporating still. Dew point's 5 degrees. So right at the ground layer, we're having to overcome that as the sleet pellets fall down through and any snowflakes or whatever like that. Some of those are evaporating, and that's why we're not seeing a whole lot picking up just yet. That will continue to moisten up as we head through the morning hours, as we continue to have precipitation falling out of the clouds, because that evaporational process will help moisten things up into the atmosphere. 21 in Florence. This is live from atop Rivers Hall at the University of North Alabama. We're looking down Pine Street. Notice the cars are still moving, but conditions will go downhill as we head through the morning. Dew point 12. So notice it's coming up some. North-northeast wind currently at 16 miles per hour there. We'll jump up to Columbia. This is on top of the big hill on the north side of town, on the north side of downtown. 18 degrees there, downright cold with a dew point of 3. So still that dry, low-level air mass, and it may be sleet and light snowflakes falling as it begins up here in Murray County before transitioning over the next couple hours to freezing rain, but not expecting a big deal with any snow. This is mainly an icing situation across our immediate viewing area. We'll hop to the Huntsville Metro now. This is courtesy of the camera sharing agreement we have with the Alabama Network. James Spann and the guys down in Birmingham, they cover all 67 counties, and we're good friends with those guys. We help them spin up their things, and we have a camera sharing agreement with them. 21 atop Montesano Mountain. This is mounted on the Alabama Public Television Tower there atop Montesano Mountain. Dew point is 13. We're overlooking the city. You see the Huntsville city lights here off as we look to the west. And again, light sleet and freezing rain in the Huntsville Metro starting to make things icy. We'll head over towards Savannah, Tennessee. 18 degrees there, with a dew point of 11, and you see slow movement of vehicles on the Tennessee River Bridge. That's Highway 64 there as we look westward from the E911 Center back over the Tennessee River in the western parts of Hardin County. And then we will jump up to Waynesboro. Icy conditions starting to build up a little bit on areas there. 19 degrees with a dew point of 2. So we have some moistening to go before things really start getting heavy this morning, but that will be happening. Hohenwald will jump up to the north and check out road conditions there. And it's not looking too terribly covered. You see cars going by at an okay speed there on the main strip. 19 degrees with a dew point of 2 there in Hohenwald is where. Here's area temperatures currently. We're into the upper teens and lower 20s over southern middle Tennessee, low to mid 20s. Over North Alabama, you notice you get over here towards Scottsboro and Fort Payne, we're already 33. Now down into Coleman, Haleyville, and Hamilton, just outside of the viewing area, it's still into the 20s, but you get any farther south of that by too much, and it is above freezing. And once we get into the afternoon, the above freezing temperatures from down to central Alabama will be moving northward, first into North Alabama and eventually Tennessee as we head to the evening. Here's the big problem right now: the roadway temperatures, and that's why things are starting to go downhill quickly, even with light precipitation. The pavement temperatures are into the 20s, area wide here. So what falls onto the pavement freezing this morning, and that will continue until we get the air temperatures above freezing, that period that I was talking about later today and especially tonight. Here's the Futurecast. It's not absolutely perfect, but it's doing a decent job with both the temperatures and the wintry mix moving in this morning. That continues through the morning and through the early afternoon. But notice as we get to midday and early afternoon, we start warming above freezing here from Athens to Huntsville to Moulton and Decatur in North Alabama. You go to the early evening, you start getting above freezing as far north as Fayetteville, Tennessee, southern Giles County, southern Lawrence County, back through the shoals into near Iuka. And as we go into the overnight, that warm air continues northward, so that after midnight tonight, we're above freezing all the way up through Hohenwald, Columbia, Spring Hill, and Lewisburg, if the high resolution modeling is correct. And we do think it is, because how consistent it's been, and also it's handling current things well, and it has a tendency over the past several years to handle our winter storms accurately here. Notice in North Alabama, after midnight, even getting into the lower 40s. So the ice accumulation that will happen today, once we get above freezing overnight and things transition to rain, there will be some melting. There will actually be some roadway improvement overnight tonight and then through the first half of Sunday, especially when the heavy rain picks up across the area tomorrow morning. And notice we start getting the upper 30s, lower 40s into southern Tennessee tomorrow morning. That's when things really start clearing up, is the late overnight tonight and through tomorrow morning. But before then, we have the icing situation that will not only cause roadway issues, but power outages possible, especially in southern Tennessee, back in North Mississippi. I'll show you the power outage risk area here in just a moment. But just because we're going to get above freezing overnight does not mean we're going to not have issues during the daytime hours today. And even where we get above freezing overnight, if you get a half inch of ice before that, before things start to melt, you will already have the damage to trees and power lines to cause power outages. So there will still be that impact to the infrastructure, even though we're going to get warmer temperatures later tonight and through tomorrow. Then as we get toward midday, notice that things start transitioning back to a wintry mix from west to east. We're ending as light icing again. And then into the evening, we start falling below freezing area wide. Whatever's left on the roadways in terms of moisture tomorrow evening will refreeze into black ice. It doesn't matter if it all melts in the liquid. It will refreeze into black ice tomorrow evening, meaning that it's going to be icy tomorrow night. Now, there will be a gusty north wind that will help dry the roadways out tomorrow night, even when things do refreeze. So there will be some drying in addition to the melting that happens during the daytime, but I don't think it's going to dry all the way. So I do think there will be some icy road conditions carrying on into Monday. Our ice accumulation forecast has really not changed too much at all since we debuted this at 12 a.m. Thursday morning. We've been consistent with this messaging, consistent with this forecast. A quarter to half inch of icing from Columbia to Lewisburg and Cornersville, down through Pulaski, down through Lawrenceburg to Loretto and St. Joe, to Collinwood and southward, the Iron City area, Fairview, Cypress Inn, the Cloverdale area, back through Waterloo to near Cherokee, down to Red Bay, over to southern Tishomingo County. A quarter to half inch of ice. That's before it switches over to rain during the overnight hours. Once it switches over to rain, there will be some melting, but before then, a quarter to half inch of ice accumulation, and that is enough to not just mess up the roadways, but to cause some spotty power outages. As you get into the darker reddish pink from Hohenwald down the Natchez Trace towards Waynesboro, near Collinwood to Lutz, to west of Waterloo through Hardin County to Iuka and Burnsville, that's half an inch or greater of ice accumulation. And that area is where you're more likely to have more widespread power outages and also longer lasting power outages, because even if you do get melting tonight and tomorrow morning, you're still going to do damage to the actual tree limbs and the power lines because of that heavy icing. Half an inch or greater really starts to weigh on the power lines, really starts to weigh on the tree limbs. It's not going to matter that it's going to melt some during the overnight, before then, it's going to do its thing and cause problems. From Fayetteville, Tennessee, down through the Huntsville Metro, Athens, Decatur, Hartsville, Falkville, honestly, all the way down through Coleman, Double Springs, Hamilton, outside of our viewing area, back to Moulton, to the Shoals Metro, Russellville, Field Campbell. Light icing today, but as we get closer to the afternoon and the evening, things warm up in this transparent pink area, and we start switching things over to above freezing and rainy conditions. And then that happens just about area-wide overnight tonight, and then through the first half of our Sunday. There's a little bit of snowflake activity mixing in with this morning, but no impactful snow accumulation with this. It's an ice storm situation, especially where you get a quarter inch or more of ice. That's officially the criteria for an ice storm. But even where it's just a thin layer of ice before melting later today and tonight, that's causing travel problems, and we're already seeing widespread travel issues starting to increase in coverage this morning. That will continue on through today, and where the higher icing areas happen, power outages are certainly possible. And based on the computer model data, here's the power outage risk across area. Now, this is raw computer model output based on the amount of power line and tree limb icing specifically. This is not me hand drawing this, so don't take this down to the little pixel by pixel calculation of it. Just the overall message it gives is that the higher risk of power outages, especially longer lived power outages, are roughly along and west of the Natchez Trace Parkway here. That's the National Park Service road that runs from up here north of Columbia down through western parts of Lawrence County, down through Collinwood, Cypress End, back to Waterloo and Cherokee, back into Mississippi. That roadway, that 2-lane roadway, that's the National Park Service road. Along and west of there, that's the high-risk zone for maybe extended power outages. East of there, power outages are still possible through southern Middle Tennessee and northwest Alabama, but they may be a little more spotty, and they may be a little shorter duration than they will be back into southwest Tennessee and especially North Mississippi. Honestly, there's some spots in North Mississippi, not in our coverage area, but down in the areas that Matt Laubon and Mississippi Live Weather covers in North Mississippi, they may see 1 to 2 inches of ice in those areas. Thankfully, we are not looking at those kind of numbers here, but we have our situation serious enough as it is. General timeline now through Sunday afternoon. It is a high impact type threat that's already starting to unfold with travel issues this morning, and then power outages becoming increasingly possible in those heavier icing areas building up through the day. The ice storm situation does start to transition to rain, though, as we head into tonight and through the morning hours of Sunday. That will open up a window where there is some improvement because of melting and because we wash the ice off of these roadways later tonight and through tomorrow morning with heavy rain. But it may end with a little more icing toward the afternoon tomorrow. And then cold temperatures through next week. Monday night, we're talking about low temperatures in the low single digits, if not just below zero. That's not wind chills. That's just the low temperatures. There will be negative wind chills around here. And then we stay cold with highs in the 30s, lows in the teens all through next week. So this extended period of cold weather, that's also pipe bursting type cold that we're going to have to deal with. It's not a guarantee you're going to have pipe issues, but you're going to have to do your classic things like drip your faucets, trickle them, open up the cabinet doors, let warm air circulate on the pipes, and make sure your pipes are insulated if possible. Otherwise, if you don't do those things, then yes, you probably will have some pipe bursting issues as we go on through the weekend and especially next week. Ice storm warnings, winter storm warnings, winter weather advisories across the area. We will have live coverage through the day. We will have live updates at the top of every hour. We're not going to be live nonstop today, but we'll have live winter storm updates at the top of every hour through 5 o'clock this afternoon before scaling back. We'll continue to break down road conditions today. We'll start talking about any power outages as we start to get reports of them later today. Ben Luna will be in here a little later this morning, do a little tag team coverage. We'll have some reports out in the field. We'll have some live streamers, things like that. And we'll continue to cover through the day. Fred Gossage here in the Tennessee Valley Weather Center. Stay with Tennessee Valley Weather. We'll keep you advised.
You're watching the Tennessee Valley Weather Channel.